Hello, everybody. This is Alex Aquarius. I'm going to start something new. This is something that I read every day. I get a press briefing from the White House 1600 daily, which is President Trump's internal news feeds from his staff to the press. A lot of these arrive to me before I see them on the news or on television. And since I'm on this White House mailing list, I thought I would read these are called the weekend news from the White House. The real news President Trump doesn't want you to miss. Okay, this is your weekend update. The Washington Post says on Tuesday, the U.S. military command in Afghanistan confirmed that a joint U.S.-Afghan operation killed Omar bin Khattab, the most senior leader killed in the country since the Taliban was driven from power in late 2001. Multiple other al-Qaeda operatives were killed in the operation as well, officials said. General John Nicholson Jr., the U.S. commander in Afghanistan, also confirmed that Mullah Shah Wali, leader of the Taliban's Red Unit, died along with his deputy commanders. The Taliban Red Unit was responsible for planning numerous suicide bombings and improvised explosive attacks. Next story. The Senate confirms Kirstjen Nielson, top White House aide to lead Homeland Security. This is in the Washington Post. This week, the Senate confirmed attorney and cybersecurity expert Kirstjen Nielson as America's new Secretary of Homeland Security. As the Washington Post reports, Nielson will be the country's first Department of Homeland Security secretary who has previous experience working at the agency. Let's see, if I click on that, I can get the full article. Let's see how long it is. One moment. They do provide the links for me to go to the actual Washington Post article at washingtonpost.com. Let's see. Nielson, 45, developed a reputation for fierce devotion to Kelly as his deputy at the White House, and before that as his chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security, which he ran from January until July. Come on. An attorney and cybersecurity expert, Nielson will be the first DHS secretary with previous experience working at the agency. Her confirmation Tuesday gives the White House a DHS chief well versed in the politics and policy goals of Trump's immigration enforcement agenda. By confirming Ms. Nielson's nomination to lead the DHS, this Senate will take a serious steps to strengthen our nation's security. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky, said in a statement. Ms. Nielson will be charged with leading the department at a critical time, he said. With her understanding of the challenges facing our nation and her experience in prevention and preparedness, I believe that she will excel as the next Secretary of Homeland Security. Nielson was confirmed 62 to 37, the narrowest margin ever to approve a DHS secretary. Though no GOP senator voted against her, the outcome reflected intense opposition to Trump as well as doubts about Nielson's executive leadership experience and the willingness to challenge the White House in the event of a disagreement. Last month, a watchdog group filled with ethics complained against Nielson after she used a private consultant who represents clients with millions of dollars in DHS contracts to help her navigate the confirmation process. Trump's pick for Homeland Security is caught up in an ethics complaint. In January, soon after Trump took office, senators confirmed Kelly 88 to 11. Nielson comes to the job largely on the power of Kelly's endorsement. She will take over from acting Secretary Elaine Duke, who filled the top job in a temporary capacity for more than 4 months, longer than any DHS chief in the agency's 15-year history. Duke was confirmed as Deputy DHS Secretary in April, but she does not have a close relationship to Nielson. Several administration officials say Duke has informed the White House she plans to resign once Nielson takes over. In a statement following Tuesday's confirmation vote, Duke congratulated her and said, "I look forward to working alongside Ms. Nielson as her deputy." One of the Democrats who voted against Nielson, Senator Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire, said she had concerns about the new secretary's independence. Throughout her confirmation process, Ms. Nielson failed to demonstrate that she would provide the steady, experienced leadership, free from political interference from the White House that the department needs. Another Democrat who voted no, Senator Kamala D. Harris, California, cited similar doubts that Nielson's independence. She also criticized her reluctance during confirmation hearings to accept human behavior as a cause of global climate change and said Nielson has equivocated on protecting dreamers, those brought to the country illegally as children and shielded from deportation under Obama. As the top official leading DHS, an agency with a $40 billion discretionary budget and 240,000 employees, Nielson will take on a broad array of responsibilities. The DHS has 22 sub-agencies, including immigration, enforcement, transportation security, disaster preparedness and response, the Secret Service, and the Coast Guard. There will be no on-the-job training for a Christian, Trump said when he announced her nomination in October, praising her sterling reputation. Nielson has never held a top job at a federal agency or a private sector company. Early in her career, she worked at the Transportation Security Administration and then as a White House advisor for emergency preparedness and disaster management under President George W. Bush. During her confirmation hearing, she told senators she learned key lessons about emergency management by having a front row seat to the botched response to Hurricane Katrina. Nielson breezed through her confirmation hearing last month before members of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs, assuring lawmakers that she would not obey an unlawful order from the White House. When asked for her views on the utility of a border wall with Mexico, she echoed comments made previously by Kelly that the United States did not need a 2,000-mile physical barrier from sea to shining sea. Back to the 1600 Daily. Next article. The Hill. Customs begins testing border wall prototypes. This is from thehill.com. Now remember, these are a collection of articles put out for weekend consumption by the White House on their 1600 Daily email from thewhitehouse.gov. Customs begins testing border wall prototypes. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, has started the process of testing prototypes for a wall along the southwest U.S. border. 8 of the sample walls are completed in San Diego in October, according to ABC News, after 6 companies were chosen to construct the prototypes. The 8 prototypes have to be 18 to 30 feet high. 4 are composed of concrete, while the other 4 are made of various other materials. Physical tests of the wall started on Monday. However, the official testing period began on November 27th, according to ABC. Physical testing of the samples includes efforts to scale or breach the walls using tools such as jackhammers and saws. The samples mark CPB's first efforts to build the wall, which was one of President Trump's cornerstone campaign promises, and he appears to have made the wall's construction a priority in the office. The Department of Homeland Security expedited the construction of the sample walls in August through issuing a waiver for the process. The Department of Homeland Security reported Tuesday in its end-of-year immigration enforcement report that the number of people turned away or caught crossing the border illegally plummeted 23.7% from the previous year to 526,901 in fiscal year 2017. DHS also reported apprehensions dropped 25.3% from 415,816 to 310,531. That came on the heels of CBP reporting their lowest ever number of apprehensions in April at 11,127. Next article. Survey. U.S. businesses added a solid 190,000 jobs in November. This from the Associated Press at ClickMail. APnews.com. Washington. U.S. businesses added a robust 190,000 jobs in November, according to a private survey, a sign that hiring is strong enough to reduce an already low unemployment rate. Payroll processor ADP on Wednesday said that last month's hiring allowed an even larger gain of 235,000 in October. Some of October's job increase reflected a bounce back from hurricane effects, which lowered hiring in September to just 96,000. Manufacturers helped drive the increase, adding 40,000 jobs, the largest gain this year. ADP said healthcare added 31,000 positions, and a category that includes restaurants and hotels hired 25,000. The job market is red hot. Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics, which compiles the report, said, job gains at last month's pace should, over time, drive down the unemployment rate, which is currently at a 17-year low of 4.1%. The rate could fall below 4% by late 2018, Zandi said, which would put it near 50-year lows. That could cause the job market to overheat, Zandi noted, in that wages would rise more quickly, potentially pushing up inflation. The Federal Reserve would likely respond with faster interest rate increases, which typically slows growth. U.S. manufacturers are benefiting from broad improvement in the global economy, which is lifting their exports. Auto manufacturers are also producing and hiring more, in part because auto sales have risen as residents to Texas and Florida replace hurricane-damaged cars. Next on our list on the briefing is the U.S. files suit to seize antiquities looted by Islamic State militants. This from the Wall Street Journal. I might try opening these before I start broadcasting next time. U.S. authorities are trying to seize an ancient gold ring allegedly looted by Islamic State militants that was sold for around $250,000 in Turkey and then confiscated by Turkish police, according to court documents filed Wednesday. In a related action, U.S. officials identified several new ancient objects allegedly looted by Islamic State in Syria and filed an amended complaint to seize the items, which include a gold brooch and necklace worth tens of thousands of dollars. The location of these items is unclear. Now, next on our list, a note from Mike Pence. Trump is a believer. This from the WashingtonExaminer.com. It's coming up here. President Trump is a believer who is humbled by the support of believers, Vice President Mike Pence said in an interview published Sunday. Let me be clear, President Trump is a believer, and so am I, Pence told CBN News. And we understand the role of faith in the life of this nation and the American people. I think can be encouraged to know. One moment. The page just jumped on me. And we understand the role of faith in the life of this nation and the American people, I think, can be technical difficulties here. I'm having pop-ups and article videos starting. Of this nation and the American people, I think, can be. I don't think I'll click on this page anymore when it pops up. Stop it. Excuse me. Okay.
I want to be a part of this. You're going to be
article. I cannot stop the pop-ups on that page. I will not go to that page. Okay, the next one. Sorry about this first broadcast. Why President Trump is right to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. This is from the Washington Free Beacon. Let me click on this one. This is the last item on the weekend bulletin from the White House on the 1600 Daily. This comes from freebeacon.com. All right. Not only is President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and begin the process of moving the U.S. embassy there one of the boldest moves of his presidency, it is one of the boldest moves any U.S. president has made since the beginning of the Oslo peace process in 1993. That process collapsed at Camp David in 2000 when Yasser Arafat rejected President Clinton's offer of a Palestinian state, and the process has been moribund ever since. That means dead. That is why the warnings from Trump critics that his decision may wreck the peace process ring hollow. There is no peace process to wreck. The conflict is frozen, and the largest barriers to the resumption in negotiations are found not in the U.S. or Israeli policy, but in Palestinian autocracy, corruption, and incitement. Had the former Obama administration officials decrying Trump's announcement read the newspapers lately? From listening to them, you'd think it would be all roses and ponies in the Middle East, but for Trump, in fact, the region is engulfed in war, terrorism, poverty, and despotism. Israel faces threats in the north and south. Its sworn enemy, Iran, is growing in influence and reach, and the delegitimization of the Jewish state proceeds apace in international organizations and on college campuses. I forget how the Obama administration advanced the cause of peace by pressuring Israel while rewarding the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Maybe someone will remind me. One of the reasons in the Middle East persists with the decrepit condition that it has been in for decades is a playground of magical thinking. Whether it is believing that poverty is the cause of terrorism or that the Ayatollah Khomeini is a good faith partner, whether it is imagining that Assad will go just because we tell him to, or that ISIS is akin to a terrorist JV team, liberal internationalists have all too eagerly accepted an alternative picture of the Middle East that is much more flattering than in actuality. A similar form of doublethink is present in our discussions over Jerusalem. Every Israeli knows Jerusalem was, is, and will remain his capital. Every recent president has agreed with him, and the U.S. consensus has been bipartisan. The last 4 Democratic platforms have said the obvious, that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. The Senate voted 90-0 only 6 months ago, urging the embassy be moved to the ancient city. Were we to take seriously neither these platforms nor that vote? Was it all virtue signaling? A bunch of empty gestures in the kabuki theater of U.S. diplomacy? It is a sign of the disingenuousness of American foreign policy that it required someone from outside this system to behave as if words having meaning. President Trump has no background or admiration for the routines, manners, and norms of the U.S. Foreign Service, especially that part of it which specializes in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This has enabled him to state unequivocally the fact others would prefer to avoid. Jerusalem is Israel's capital, full stop. His transactional nature also brought him to this fateful recognition. In March of 2016, at the IPAC policy conference, he pledged that we will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem. His remarks today make clear his intention to fulfill that promise and to cement his support with the pro-Israel community. That was written by Matthew Continetti, December 6th, from the Washington Free Beacon. That concludes our broadcast today of the White House 1600 Daily. Thank you for coming. I'm Alex Aquarius signing off. Till next time, bye.